Christ is risen from the dead, trampling down death by death, and on those in the tombs bestowing life. Christos anesti ec necron thanato, thanaton patisas, getis sentis mnimas isoin charis amenos. Christ is risen from the dead, trampling down death by death, and on those in the tombs bestowing life.
As you can see from the background, I am sitting in front of my cabin with this beautiful tree that's all abloom with the flowers of springtime. It has come to my mind that all of us have those dark times, those difficult times. Maybe we're in a lot of pain from an illness or a loss of a loved one. And in some ways, those periods are like the depths of winter. When we get up and we look outside and there's snow on the ground and there's a windstorm coming and we have to shovel the snow in order to get to our car. And we just feel like we want to get out of there. We want to fly to Hawaii, as some people will do. Every one of us, even if we live in a climate like this, Pacific Northwest, where we have the 4 seasons, we actually get into winter and we enjoy it. I enjoy it. I enjoy when we have snow on the ground. But I'm so glad that I live in an area where winter doesn't last that long. And then spring comes. And we have the glory of God's creation in the leaves that are sprouting forth and the flowers like this tree behind me. And it also seems to lift people's spirits because people are more inclined to interact with other people when they see them on the street or in the grocery store. Because the sunshine has sort of pumped them with joy and hope. But each and every one of us need, as Christians, to make sure that we are available to God, to be that sunshine and hope to those with whom we come in contact. We have this tradition at the monastery that no one goes to the post office or the grocery store unless they're able to smile. Because the last thing we want is for someone who is not a believer to see a downtrodden monk in their midst and have that as a confirmation that there must be no hope. There are times when I have been so exhausted from visitors, and it happened recently where we had a group of young men here, and I didn't expect them, so it was a surprise, and I was so exhausted that I just didn't know how I could put any energy into them. But I knew that God wanted me to do that. So I invited them into the trapeza, and we sat down together. And I looked into their faces and I smiled. And then, in the inner solitude of my heart, I asked God to give me the words that these young men needed. And then I found that I was listening to those very words that God was giving me. And it ended up, I spent a lot of time with them. And by the time it was over with, my energy had soared, because it was the love of Christ that was emanating from me, the light of Christ within me. All of us could have this happen. And that's what we're charged to do as Christians, to spread the good word. When Jesus sent his apostles out to preach to every nation. He didn't instruct them to go out there with scowls on their faces. And he didn't tell them, only talk to the people you like or you feel that you could connect with. Jesus told them to go out and preach the gospel and the good news of Christ to all the nations, and they did that. And that's what we need to do on a daily basis. Preaching the gospel of Christ by how we love people, how we interact with people, how we look into their eyes when we're talking to them, because we care. And even those moments when we're self-consumed and worried about things in our own lives or family members, when we make that concerted effort to convey the love of Christ to others, the grace that abounds is enough to make that happen. So may God make it so, my beloved ones.
Both now and ever and unto the ages of ages. Amen. Only begotten Son and immortal Word,